Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are listening to us. This is the Directed by Dean podcast. I am not Dean. My name is Joe Barra, and with me, as always, is Dean
Evening, everyone.
and Samwise Gamgee.
Hello.
How was that, Dean? How'd I do? Did I do good?
Yeah, you did all right.
Nice. Um, Before we start with any topics, before we start with the set topic, I just have to acknowledge the passing of Matthew Perry
Yeah.
from Friends. He was the legacy he'll leave with Friends alone speaks volumes. But I was just reading something about his humanitarian efforts, and we all know Matthew Perry had his struggles. And up until this point, nothing has been confirmed and nothing has been cited as the direct cause of death. I would assume it has something to do with his past use of narcotics, but I just read this thing where Matthew Perry said, of course, everyone's going to remember Friends, and that's great, which of course we all are because I love Friends. But he said he wants to be remembered more for having his sober house of living, for his helping people with addictions, because he did so much to help those people. That's why people always ask me why God allows some people to go through horrible things. Matthew Perry helped thousands of people battle their addictions, and nobody even knows about that. We're only finding this out recently. So, Matthew Perry, not only a phenomenal actor, but a gem of a human being, and he will rest in peace. He will be carried on in all of our hearts, and my hearts and prayers go to his family and friends.
Yeah. Can't really say anything else to that. I may throw in some Matthew. I might throw in some Chandler Bing quotes if the opportunity arises, as a little tribute. Very nice, Joe, and very nice touch there from Final Cuts Padre. Right, so gentlemen, I'll do the news quite quickly because we've got two topics to go over. There was a failed Superman trilogy pitch before Man of Steel, which was been revealed by Kingsman director Matthew Vaughn. Mark Miller, comic book creator, and I sat down and plotted out a three-film trilogy, pitched it to Warner Brothers before Man of Steel. The main villains were going to be Brainiac, General Zod, who we ended up having anyway, and obviously Lex Luthor. And Warner said they weren't interested.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious? That sounds phenomenal.
So you literally have Superman's greatest foe, Superman's greatest Kryptonian foe, and his nemesis, his Kryptonian nemesis. And you also have Mark Miller involved. You have Matthew Vaughn, who, bearing in mind, has already cut his chops in the world of directing. And Warner Brothers just go to him and say no. To be honest with you, I would have paid, depending on when they would have come out, I would have paid good money to watch that.
Did they say who they would have casted as Superman, or who they were thinking of?
I think it might have been Henry Cavill, anyways. To be honest, it is only. I've literally only just gone through the screenshots that I've got off Instagram. That's all it is.
See, that would have been perfect. I think it would have been great if you have like Lex Luthor be the villain in the third movie, and you have two movies establishing his hatred and why he dislikes Superman and noting his weaknesses. So then by the third movie, that just would have been, that makes me so mad.
I tell you what, my idea one would have been: we'll follow the Man of Steel approach. We'll have General Zod as the first one. We'll have Lex Luthor as the second one, and then we'll have Brainiac as the final one. That's how
Brainiac is a good villain. Brainiac is phenomenal.
Before Henry Cavill was axed, there was actually talk that Brainiac was going to be villain for Man of Steel 2. So it's not as if the idea wasn't literally pitched to them. But to be honest with you, no matter who they would have got, Warner's would have said no anyway. It doesn't matter if they would have got Chris Nolan to do it, they would have said no.
It just shows the disorganization. I know this is a quick sidebar of the DC universe and why it failed. You had a pretty damn good Superman movie come out, Man of Steel, and it's like, okay, this is great. Where are we going from here? And then just nothing for, I think, 4 years. Then you have Batman vs. Superman. It's like, are you kidding? This is Superman, like the greatest superhero. You just did a one-shot movie and have no idea where it's going to go. If they did, I think, like more time in pre-production or just planning out the future of the DC cinematic universe, I think now we'd be in a completely different position than instead of redoing the whole thing.
Yeah, unfortunately. I do actually generally think there is a warped reality around there, whereas Warner Brothers had the right idea, and the DCEU is now more successful than the MCU. But to be honest with you, it's probably in a far distant reality where no one has even considered that possibility. Because if that has actually happened, I'll be very surprised, to be honest. So, what do you think, Sam, about a possible Man of Steel trilogy absolutely missed by Warner Brothers?
I mean, you talk about Warner Brothers and all the different DC projects that have gone on of recent times. I mean, they only like quite recently decided to scrap the Batgirl, which I was actually looking forward to. So they're having a mare over there. So you can see why they wouldn't want to pursue another, DC project while all the others have gone. There's no better way of putting it, but tits up.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, especially with the Flash as well, where Ezra Miller and all his controversies. You can see why they'd be a bit hesitant.
All I'm going to say is the less said about the Flash, the better. I will just leave the Flash at that because I have seen it and it is absolutely rubbish.
It is, except for Michael Keaton, who I hope we see again.
Definitely. Just a bit of movie delayed news. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2 has been delayed to summer 2025. A Quiet Place has been moved 3 months, or not April, May, June. Yeah, three months or so to June 28th. Deadpool, rumor has it, will not keep its original release date of May next year, which, given the strikes, is understandable. Do you want to know something as well, chaps? I actually read something today that it might be 2026 or 2027 when we actually have the next Avengers movies.
Oh my gosh.
Because of everything that's going on.
That's crazy because Endgame came out 2019.
It was
it
was the last movie before the pandemic as well.
Yeah, we're talking almost 10 years before the next Avengers movie. And I don't know if you've been seeing, Dean, but I've been seeing reports like Disney is going to redo the filming of the new Daredevil series. There we go. Yeah, they fired half the writers.
I did hear that.
Then they fired I'm gonna mispronounce his name. I'm so sorry. Taika Waititi for Thor 5.
Yeah, Taika Waititi.
Thank you. Yeah, they canned him for Thor 5. So it seems like they're just cleaning house. I think Marvel and Kevin Feige realized that they took a huge misstep with Phase 4. I think they just thought they could almost release any Marvel product and we're just going to eat it up and watch the next one. But Phase 4 showed that that's not the case. Spider-Man was phenomenal. Thor was okay, but I went into it with very low expectations and had a decent laugh. Doctor Strange was all right, but the rest, I just feel like they oversaturated big time and it wasn't building to anything. Like in all the phases of Marvel, they were building towards something. And Phase 4 is just, it's like, what are you building to?
Yeah. I think the other biggest problem Marvel has is that they don't actually own the rights to all the characters. Because I remember seeing a meme like when Civil War was released. It was like comic book Civil War, which is where you have literally the entire Marvel universe against each other. The movie, you just have 5v5. Yeah, it doesn't really hold the same shtick, does it?
No, not at all. But also, like I tell people, you have to make differences when you're doing live action versus comics.
Yeah, fair enough.
In a live action movie, you cannot have 15 versus 15 because you know how long it would take to establish 30 different people. Like Marvel did a damn good job just establishing the Avengers for non-comic fans. For us comic fans, we knew. But to make it generally appealing for the non-comic fans, they did a fantastic job. And the Avengers was only, Hulk, Captain America, Black Widow, Iron Man, Hawkeye, missing anybody? Thor. There we go. I knew I was missing somebody. 6. And it took from 2008 to 2011, right? It was 2012.
Yeah, something like that.
2008 to 2012 to establish 6 characters. So you know how long that would take?
A lot, yeah. Speaking of Marvel, Marvel itself has confirmed that Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy, Kirsten Dunst, Mary Jane Watson, and Sally Field's Aunt May were originally in the screenplay for No Way Home. But I think Emma Stone's would have been a problem because obviously, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the Amazing Spider-Man movies, she's dead.
Yeah.
That would have been a bit more complicated. Kirsten Dunst Mary Jane, I can believe, but it would just depend on the fallout of Spider-Man 3 because, well, let's just say Peter Parker was a dick in Spider-Man 3. That's just all you need to know. Did Sally Field's Aunt May die? I don't think she did she?
No, Aunt May never died.
No, she didn't because Andrew Garfield spent majority of that last bit of that movie absolutely bawling his eyes out, bless him, when he lost the love of his life. I would like to see an Amazing Spider-Man 3, just while we're on the subject of Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Oh, that's the first thing I said after I watched No Way Home. I said, as much as I would love a Spider-Man 4, I really want to see Spider-Man 3. Andrew Garfield showed us he has so much more to offer for his Spider-Man. And I would love to see what he can bring in Amazing Spider-Man 3. And I think they're going to do it because, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Tom Hardy's Venom is in Andrew Garfield's universe.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So I don't think they did that by accident. Just saying.
Ridley Scott has actually put new positive comments on the new Alien movie after the one that Fede Alvarez is doing. According to Fede himself, Ridley Scott has told him his movie is fucking great.
Oh, I love that.
You haven't endorsed. Now that's like a tale of a tale of two evils. That's also a good thing. It's also a bad thing. If someone as famous as Sir Ridley Scott goes to you and says, "Right, your movie's fucking great," the pressure is now on to maintain that he stays that way. That is the problem. That's the problem. See what else there is. That's the topic. Speaking of which, Marvel officially confirmed Scarlet Witch died in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
What?
Yep, I'll explain. In the new MCU time book, Scarlet Witch's demise is confirmed. Wanda destroys Wundagore and collapses it upon herself, ending two great threats to all of the multiverse. The entry has a major character death symbol confirming her fate.
Okay.
Now, whether that happens or not is a different story. Because they are going to soft reboot it, whether Elizabeth Olsen comes back. I don't know. I do know one thing, though. I would love to see her back. I'd love to see all the crew back for Secret Wars, since they are going to be...
That would be... I think that'd be the only way you can get Robert Downey Jr. back as Iron Man, is in Secret Wars. And I would love to see one more performance of him as Iron Man, with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Oh, yeah. And Ryan
That's literally a comic nerd movie dream come true.
Last bit of news. Amazon has announced Fallout TV series will premiere on April 12th, 2024. I do remember they were filming it before both strikes happened, so I'll take it with a pinch of salt. But the fact that Amazon has actually announced it for next year, more than likely it will happen, depending on anything that needs to happen in pre or post production. So,
did they say when The Boys season 4 is coming out? Because I finally finished, and I'm getting very impatient.
It's a long time away, mate. Although I actually do feel your pain, simply because as soon as season 3 ended, I wanted season 4. So I know your pain.
I just finished it like 2 nights ago, and I just need more.
I will say one thing: I have never actually played Fallout.
I haven't either.
I've never played a Fallout game. But the fact that Jonathan Nolan is actually doing this TV series, I might actually be able to... I might be persuaded to go on, see if there's any Fallout games on PlayStation Extra and try it for a month or two. So we'll see what happens. First of all, we'll go into the... Oh, sorry, Sam. Did you have anything to say about the other bits of news, or you're good?
No, not really. I mean, I've never played Fallout, but I'm pretty sure most of the people I've spoke to really love it. They've played it.
Actually, Joe, a bit of news for you. A European airline is experimenting with adults-only sections of its flight. I'll tell you the full bit before I get your reaction. A European airline is set to trial adult-only sections on flights later this year, essentially putting an end to the woes of being seated next to a crying baby. Corendon Dutch Airlines, which is a sibling of Turkey's Corendon Airlines, apologies if I've butchered that name, will commence testing this concept on flights connecting Amsterdam and the Caribbean island of Curacao are starting November 3rd. The only adult zone will consist of 102 seats strategically placed at the front of the Airbus A350-900, including 9 with added legroom. It will be separate from the rest of the plane by walls and curtains, while the airline said will create a shielded environment that contributes to a calm and relaxed flight. The only thing I want to say is it's no good saying it will create a shielded environment because you will still hear kids. I don't care what anybody says. If you ever heard a baby cry, you know that is actually a load of bull, and you do actually know that you will hear it regardless.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm like, okay, that sounds great. No crying babies. I'm all for that. But I don't think they realize that a curtain cannot block sound. Somebody not do their research?
You would literally have to put soundproof doors in there.
Or if we have it invented at this point, a soundproof curtain, which as far as I know, does not exist.
It can't exist because it has to cover the entire thing for it to be soundproof.
Exactly. So that's going to fail.
Just briefly, a bit of a Taylor Swift update. I have told the boys about this before we came on. Five Nights at Freddy's has actually topped the US box office. Haven't got the full details with me, but I did tell the boys before we went on. I believe it is also, and I will say this next week, it's also Blumhouse's highest opening weekend ever. And this, despite the fact that Five Nights at Freddy's has been released simultaneously on Peacock and in cinemas, which is mind-blowing.
Wow, that's crazy.
I will get more into that next week, but I was a little bit pressed for time. So firstly, gentlemen, Now TV, which is basically a subsidiary of Sky over here, has been doing its 31 days of how it's been released. It's been recommending a different movie every day. Obviously, we won't know what 31st of October is because this will be going up on October 31st. But at the minute, and the boys have seen the movies thus far, and I have actually told them. So I'll do them from 1 to 30. And all we're going to do is recommend what we would choose for. We'll say a movie triple bill on Halloween, boys. I think that sounds fair, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have actually got the list in our group chat that we have. So just for everyone listening who doesn't know of this list, I'll do them from day 1 to day 20 to day 30. I will explain what day 30 is when I get there. So the Halloween movie list that they've chosen is Blair Witch Project, the original Saw, Ouija from 2013 with Olivia Cook, the original Insidious, Megan, definitely great. The first Purge movie, Nope, which was Jordan Peele's last movie, I believe. Scary Movie, can't recommend that enough. From Dusk Till Dawn with George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino.
I love that movie. I love that movie.
Shaun of the Dead, Paranormal Activity, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Not the original Friday the 13th, the one with Jared Padalecki, Amanda Rigetti, and Danielle Panabaker from 2009. Cabin in the Woods with Chris Hemsworth, Brandon Lee's The Crow. It's from 2017. Knock at the Cabin with Dave Bautista. Piggy, The Invitation with Natalie Emmanuel. 2013's Texas Chainsaw with Alexandra Daddario. Halloween Ends. The original Hellraiser, not the rebooted one that was on Hulu, the original one with Doug Bradley's Pinhead. Jigsaw, which was not the last incarnation, but the last one. It was after Saw 3D, I think it was. So I think that's the 8th one, isn't it? But I think it's the 8th one.
Yeah.
I think it is. Black Phone with Ethan Hawke. Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe. Just so everyone does know, that actually got a 12A over here in England, which I'm just like, how can a horror movie be a 12A? That's just ridiculous.
Jeez.
Yeah. Cabin Fever, Smile, Chloe Grace Moritz as Carrie. I wish it was the original, not the reboot. I've seen the reboot, can't stand it. The original Scream, and October 30th was The Conjuring. Now, obviously, we don't know what 31st is because this is being done on 30th, so it will be back on the 31st. So, gentlemen, what can we recommend for a movie triple bill on Halloween? Bearing in mind, this will be our choices. Will be a case of this will be a combined effort. So, basically, if we all choose the same movie, then that's it automatically, and anything else can be negotiated if we can't agree on one, which I think is actually quite fair because it's coming from all of us. I'm going to be brutally honest. I actually watched all of these. Either I have previously, or I watched them up until this podcast, simply because I wanted to give my accurate representation of what I think everything is. I haven't seen Bodies, and I haven't seen Smile. But all I know about Smile is if someone looks at me with that smile, I don't want to watch the movie. Honestly, I could recommend just about 3/4 of these, to be honest. That's the other thing, though. There's for me, 24 of these movies are so great, I'd recommend them. I would probably say, to be honest with you, I would probably say Hellraiser, simply because I don't think you've really known horror until you've seen something like that was made in the 80s. So I'll say Hellraiser, Cabin in the Woods, because it is a bit of a Mickey take. It's also a bit of comedy.
I love that movie.
I did choose between. I was thinking that of Scary Movie. The only problem is Scary Movie is 23 years old, and a lot of people nowadays probably won't get half of the preferences. I mean, if you and I did the what's that, Sam would probably look at us and think, "What are you going on about? What's that?" Whereas we know it was from one of the old Budweiser adverts that they decided to put in from the time. Just think what else I could put in.
Just because I'm young, Dean, don't mean that I don't know about that.
All right, did you ever see any of the Budweiser TV adverts where they all used to go, "Wazza"?
Yeah. Just because I'm quite young, Dean, I'm not oblivious.
But a lot of people won't know it. It's kind of like just going on Matthew Perry again. A lot of people who watch Friends probably won't get half of what's in it, and also a lot of people won't think that Friends is a bit outdated, which in fairness it is, because a lot of the stuff in there wouldn't be thought about today. I'm just trying to think. It's kind of hard, actually. I would probably say Megan, simply because it's quite futuristic, and it's kind of like, how could something so scary how could something so innocent be so dangerous? And actually, it did actually make me not think to look at dolls for a long time. And I am genuinely being serious. It is actually a movie about an artificial killer doll, and I'm kind of like, every time I went near a toy shop, I'm like, I'm not looking at that. It's bad enough I had Chucky in my youth. So that's my choices. So Cabin in the Woods, Hellraiser, and Megan. That's my choices. What about you two?
Well, I've gone I would say the funny route out of this selection of horror films, because at the end of the day, you kind of want to have a laugh. I know Halloween's this all big and spooky event, but I like to laugh while watching a horror film. So I've wrote down Shaun of the Dead. I believe that is on the list.
That was on my... Yeah, I was also I was kind of torn between Cabin in the Woods and Shaun of the Dead, but I think Cabin in the Woods, just because there's so much nostalgia in all of the villains. I mean, even if you are a little bit of a horror fan, not so much a big one, you will probably know from about 5 or 6 of them, it's like, oh my God, all these are horror villains, just renamed differently.
Yeah, I mean, that movie is a very interesting watch, and I was going to put it down, but I feel like you and Joe were going to put it down, so I actually left it.
Oh.
I put the double barrel film down of watching Scream and then Scary Movie, one after another. Because I feel like that would be an interesting way to watch it. I've never done it, but you'd assume that it'd just go from, oh, this is a funny film, and then a parody of that film straight afterwards.
Is that your actual... So... Would you have it? Would you go Scream, Scary Movie, or Scary Movie, Scream?
I think I'd do Scream, Scary Movie. Because the Scream's more about the plot, and then the Scary Movie's more about the parody of that.
It's just like Barbieheimer all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting if they released them closer together than they did.
Yeah.
Because obviously, how many Screams are out by the time Scary Movie was released?
I think there's 6 Screams. movies right now, right?
Now, hold on. Scream came out in '96. Actually, I think there was two because I think three was done in 2001, I believe.
Yeah, Scary Movie was at 2000, so it probably just one and two.
Do you know what? I'm happy to go along with Sam's idea because I actually like that idea. So, what about you, Joe?
All right, so my three would be From Dusk Till Dawn,
Of course.
because I'll still never forget the first time watching this movie. I literally, it was a great story, loved the movie, and then it feels like I blinked and I'm like, what the heck's going on? There's vampires, or it was hilarious. I loved it. Shaun of the Dead, just because movie's just phenomenal. And Scream, because that was actually, I think, one of my first horror movies I've ever seen.
I think judging by that, gentlemen, it's going to have to be Shaun of the Dead, Scream, and Scary Movie. Because I do like Sam's idea of a Scream and Scary Movie double bill. Is there, just while we're on the subject of Halloween, is there any others that we'd recommend?
I mean, I'll always say it wasn't on the list, but the very first Halloween movie, in what was it, 78, 79 that it came out?
I don't know how true it is. I don't know if American Netflix is the same as ours, but Halloween is actually on Netflix in England, so there might be a chance it's on in America. I actually had a look. Freddy vs. Evil Dead's on Netflix over here. Scream
Nice.
6 is on Paramount Plus. I definitely recommend that, but I recommend 5 or 6.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, for me, like, as a filmmaker as well, Halloween is a prime example of less is more. They do such a great job with the filmmaking. They make you really scared of this guy, and the way they do it is so brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's why that always be on a recommended watch list for me.
If someone's fancying a bit of science fiction horror, I'd recommend Terminator or Event Horizon.
There you go. Oh, I got to tell you guys something so funny real quick. I was on the plane, and they had a romance/comedy section for movies. So I click on it. Okay, I'm in the mood to laugh. The first movie they have listed was The Terminator.
I'm sorry, what genre was that under?
It was on ITA, Italian Airways. I clicked on romance and comedy because I just wanted to laugh, and I saw Terminator.
Oh my God.
And seeing that in the romance comedy section gave me a great laugh because there is a bit of romance in it,
Yeah, there is romance, but it's not exactly what you call that one that takes an hour and a half. Well, technically, it could take an hour and a half. Speaking of it, I actually have some recommendations if anyone fancies, well, basically anything Italian made by Italian directors. One of them I have seen is Suspiria, made by Dario Argento. Jesus fucking Christ. It's really good and it's really scary. I believe it's on Netflix, but I know Shudder is basically Horror Movie Central. Demons and Demons 2's on there. They were on my watch list while I had Shudder. Never got time to watch them, but the fact it's a Dario Argento movie for me is enough reason to watch it.
Nice.
So what about you, Sam? What recommendations have you got for anyone?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind, and I must have spoken about it before, but Sleepaway Camp. I think if you've never seen or heard about the film, just watch it, and then it's got one of the I don't really know how to put it, best plot points that there's been and best twists near the end. I mean, you can't like really see it coming. There's like a slight hint towards it, but I think it's just a brilliant twist. I mean, I've not seen the sequels, but you'd assume that they're not great. But the first one, the 1983 one, definitely give that a watch.
That's definitely worth a watch. Just trying to think what off this list I would watch. I know, to be honest with you, I would recommend Friday the 13th from 14 years ago over the original, simply because the original is just so slow in its pacing. Sean Cunningham has even admitted that it's just so slow. And apparently he was told that by Wes Craven, of all people, said it's just so slow. So Friday the 13th, 2009, I would probably say it's not as good, but as far as pacing goes, I would probably say it's better. So if you don't want a horror movie that's Matrix-like slow, but you want a Friday the 13th movie, I'd recommend the reboot of Friday the 13th. anything, majority of everything M. Night Shyamalan, I definitely recommend Signs, Sixth Sense. I have seen Knock at the Cabin. So, yeah, it is Knock at the Cabin, isn't it? I have seen Knock at the Cabin. I watched it as part of everything. It's the one with Dave Bautista in it. I will say one thing. I was actually quite shocked at the twist at the end. But then when you hear what it was, the deduction of it, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, that does make a lot of sense, doesn't it? So yeah, I'd recommend that. Stephen King's It. I would not recommend part 2 because it will literally consume all of your night. Because it is like 3 hours. Invitation is basically I would recommend The Invitation, but don't be too surprised at the end when you find out who the central part of the movie is about. I'd recommend any Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3. I wouldn't bother with any others, although there is a video game one of the later ones, and it actually stars a very young Henry Cavill.
Oh, damn. I don't know.
Yeah, the only problem is he's not on screen for that long. He gets killed because, let's face it, you have to be gutted in a Hellraiser movie, otherwise it's not very Hellraiser-ish, is it? I wouldn't recommend any of the Blair Witches. If I was going to recommend a Ouija movie, I would recommend Ouija Origin of Evil. A lot of people have said that the Origin of Evil, the prequel, is actually better than Ouija itself. I, in turn, would say that's probably true because it's absolutely ridiculous. And it's honestly, I think the pacing and just the sheer dread volume is absolutely, it's kind of like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And then it just takes forever for something to happen. You're like, oh my God, can we just get on with this?
I hate that. You know what I would recommend? This isn't a movie, so kind of like I'm not a big horror movie guy, like I said in the past, but I freaking love Stranger Things. I cannot recommend that series enough. So I wouldn't really call it. Would you classify it as a horror? I mean,
Vecna's in it, so yeah, I would class it as horror.
Yeah, I mean, what Netflix did with that series, the Duffer Brothers, phenomenal. Such a great horror series. There we go.
Stranger Things is actually it's on both my lists to watch, and it is on my list.
You still haven't seen it, Dean?
No, I haven't yet.
Whoa, I'm surprised.
There's too much choice.
I know. We talked about that literally on one of our last episodes.
Yeah. If anyone's interested in any Marvel movies, not so much Multiverse of Madness, I'd recommend Marvel's Werewolf by Night.
Actually, I haven't seen that.
It's basically it's a black and white horror, like the old style Hammer horror movies. It's only about an hour and 10 minutes long, but it's absolutely brilliant.
All right.
What else there is? Haven't seen it. I've seen a bit of it, and it does look quite chilling. Russell Crowe's The Pope's Exorcist looks quite good. I've only seen bits and bobs, but unfortunately, I keep falling asleep because I always play it late at night. So, from what I've seen, I'd recommend it. Definitely. We're just trying to think. Is there anything else? What else? There's probably tons that I can think of, but at this minute, there isn't anything that comes to mind. I don't know if you two's got any more recommendations.
Not really a recommendation, but I didn't mention to you, Dean, but I have actually watched Cannibal Holocaust since I last.
You have?
I have, yeah.
So, on a scale of watch to do not watch, what would you recommend?
I don't think it's as traumatized as people are saying. I can see why people were, but the scenes in question, I mean, I didn't really see much wrong with them. I can see why people would. I know that they killed a lot of animals in the film, so I know people are against that.
And also, I don't know if you probably do know this, Sam. The director actually hid the actors away to the point where the police were ready to charge him with murder.
Yeah, I do know that, but it's about as good as promotion as you can get.
Yeah. Can we think of anything else, chaps? To be honest with you, at the minute, I can't think of anything else. There's probably tons I'd recommend, but those are the only ones that come to mind. But either way, I'm pretty much sure, ladies and gentlemen, that our recommendations are well worth it. But honestly, I would happily favour anything from the 60s, 70s, or 80s, or even some of the 90s over everything nowadays. simply because everyone loved Nightmare on Elm Street. Everyone was shit scared to go to sleep. Whereas nowadays, if you did a movie like that, everyone would be like, "Yeah, I don't really think that. I don't really. I'm not going to trouble myself too much over a movie about where somebody dies in their sleep." Bless you, Sam. Second topic, actually, this is quite an interesting one. Killers of the Flower Moon is a 3 hour, 20 minutes movie, I believe it is. It's over 3 hours anyway. So I've got the report from Variety here. Paramount and Apple Original Films have been contacting theatres that violated their contracts by inserting intermissions into Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. The Lyric, which is a theatre in Fort Collins, Colorado, you may know it, Joe, I'm not sure if you do, showed the historical drama with an intermission until they got in trouble with the two companies. I've only got a little bit of what was said, but film was Sean Maker, the editor of the film, a long-time collaborator with Martin Scorsese. I understand that somebody's running it with an intermission, which is not right. That's a violation, so I have to find out about it. And it does actually get me thinking, should intermissions come back?
The intermission's an interesting thing. When I saw Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino's Hateful Eight,
yeah,
they had a 10-minute intermission. And I think if you're watching anything over 3 hours, you should have an intermission. Because, sometimes you may just instinctively get antsy or just need to move or use the bathroom, I personally like them. When the movie's over 3 hours, if it's not, then there's really no point.
Me and Sam actually sort of discussed this earlier in the week. We actually came up with a set of ground rules if it was to come back. Just remind me, Sam, what were they? The movies have to be over 2.5 hours.
The director gets the choice of when the cut will be.
Yeah, the director gets a choice. There should be intermission and no intermission screenings. But yeah, anything. But I did actually think, because first time I've been to the toilet in a long time during a movie was actually during Taylor's Eras Tour movie, and I'm like, oh, I really need to go to the toilet, but I wish there was an intermission.
See,
yeah. So it's not very often I do go to the toilet during a movie, but I think for a movie that long, it does need it. I will say one thing: a 10-minute break should actually be added to any midnight showings. Just because I have actually done a midnight showing and I really struggled to watch all of the movie.
Damn, power to you, man.
And it was actually Captain America: The Winter Soldier, but it was actually a double bill. Before that, we had First Avenger, and then it went straight into Winter Soldier, and I'm like, how the hell am I going to survive this? I was about 1 a.m. and I'm like, oh God, I wish I hadn't done this, because I was really struggling to keep my eyes open. I'm like, I just need it to stop just so I can go outside and have a whiff of fresh air.
I did that for Toy Story. When Toy Story 3 came out, me and all my friends in high school, they were having a triple feature. They did 1, 2, and then 3. But at the end of each movie, they gave you, I think, 15 minutes to get up, stretch, use the bathroom. And I enjoyed it. It turned out to be, a whole day affair. But my inner child was bursting with joy.
Yeah. What else did we agree on, Sam? I did say that horror movies are exempt from this, because horror movies, aside from, say, a Midsommar, which I would class as more psychological horror, doesn't need it. So if you're going to watch a horror movie for an hour and a half, you don't really need it. It's a case of, so we're going to have an intermission 45 minutes through. And it's like, it's pointless.
Yeah. And also with a horror movie, they have to keep you in, because then once you're taken out of that horror reality, then it's hard to get back into it.
Yeah, also it'd be a case of the cutoff point would have to be somewhere where tension is at its weakest. Because I remember there was a showing for Nightmare on Elm Street, and they had to cut it. They had to cut the footage. They had to cut the screening short at a very tense point, and it just killed the momentum. It just absolutely killed it. I actually went to a showing of Iron Man 3 when it came out. There was a power cut at the worst possible point, and I'm like, oh, you are not doing this now. I remember when we went out, one of the chaps said, where did it cut off? I went, probably at the worst tension point of the movie. And he was like, oh, you never. But good news, I actually got a free movie out of that as well, so I was actually quite chuffed. But,
hey, look at that.
I know, stuff happens for a reason, but at the same time, it has to be a point where everyone is kind of relaxed, there's nothing going on. So it would have to be a case of it would have to be at the director's choice, but it would also have to be a case of it needs to be somewhere where tension is either not at its best, or it's the basically the start of the lead up to the final scene between the hero and the villain, but depending on what movie it is and how long it's on for. I'm just trying to think what else there is.
I mean, we mentioned about food, Chris. That's a big one. If you've only got a limited amount of break, you get your food and get straight back in.
I did mention that. Everyone would you could do it like this. Everyone can pre-order the food for the intermission, but at the 8-minute mark, they will say last orders for drinks and food before it happens. So if you needed a fresh douse of caffeine, you could happily go and do it. You can happily say, right, just going to go Costa for me for my next coffee I'm going to have. By the time 5 minutes was up, you'd be back in. If you need a toilet break, you can go. You can order your coffee, go to the toilet, come back, it'll be ready and waiting for you.
Yeah, you see, I know most cinemas these days, they allow you to order your food when you buy the tickets. And I think it'd be a good idea if they implemented it so you could have it specifically for the intermission.
That's a smart idea. Never thought about that, pre-ordering your food. Because then they can also get ready knowing when the intermission is. So you're not spending most of your time waiting.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that would apply to, because I don't know if you know this, Sam, but there's a Cineworld in O2 where you pay 60 quid, you can have unlimited everything you want, including your tickets. I'm not quite sure how it would work, because it would be a case of everyone in the kitchen would have to know when the 10-minute marks are. They'd have to think about how much they're going to cook, how much everyone's going to want. And it would be a case of, right, we've got 10 minutes or we've got half an hour, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, to whip up what we can. So everyone who's had an all-you-can-eat buffet can just literally pick up what they want. But at the same time, it's generating more revenue for AMC and all the theatres that actually do this. So we're not just thinking about this, just because it's a topic of conversation. We're actually being quite financial as well.
Yeah, I mean, after a while, the cinemas can pretty much gauge how many people are realistically going to want food, and it shouldn't be too much of an issue for them, and it should speed up the times between like preparing food and actually going out to the customers.
Yeah, or even do a poll like, right, this is 3 hours long. Would you like an intermission? Would you like an intermission in it? I know a lot would probably say yes for other reasons, but I think a lot would probably just say no, just because they're like, oh, I just want to watch the movie. I don't need an intermission or anything like that. In which case, there's an intermission showing and there isn't an intermission showing.
Yeah, because personally, I wouldn't really be interested with an intermission showing unless it was like a 7-hour film, and that's a rare occurrence. There's not many films that last that long.
Gone with the Wind could definitely have done with one.
Yeah, I'd rather stay in the mood, because the second you leave the cinema, it's out of your head and it's not ideal. So they would need to have 2 separate showings, because it would be unfortunate for those who want to stay and just not lose the flow of the film.
It's like those who want IMAX. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen any showings recently, but they used to do showings with subtitles. So anyone who's used to watching subtitles on Netflix, Amazon, anything like that, is actually quite handy for them.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why they do that for more like accessibility options, which is fair enough. But you'd want it to be a minimal amount of showings. So.
Yeah. Is there? What else can we think of, gents, regarding this?
I don't know. I think we kind of covered all, but I think, Sam is right. Yeah, the director can decide. They can have showings with an intermission or without. And then I think it kind of just adds to the overall experience, really.
I have actually just thought of something. The fact that Paramount and Apple have actually investigated this should be a case of, right, this has been authorized by the studio, by the director, and everyone else in charge that we can actually do this. So you don't have to worry about it being shut down because it's not legal. Just so everyone's happy and you don't get complaints. Oh, the movie's been shut down because it's not been the intermission has not been allowed.
Interesting.
But you got to follow the legal headway, mate.
True.
Just want to think, is there anything else?
I mean, you mentioned where having the intermission would be a place where it's not really suspenseful, but I think it should have to be a minimum time before the end. Like,
Yeah, there
if
is
for
that.
some reason they did it in like a 2 hour movie, you don't want to have it in the second half of the film. You'd really want it before it moves into the second or third
I
act.
think a 2 hour film is like too short for an intermission. I think it has to be
It's
two
got
and
to
a
be.
half hours, at least definitely three to have an intermission.
I did say originally 2.5, simply because 2.5 hours is getting into the territory where even the best bladders are starting to go a bit weak.
Yep. And then you're spending be saying, crap, I gotta pee.
Although saying that, I still don't know how I sat through 9 hours of Lord of the Rings in 3 separate movies. So I'm still not sure how I managed that.
Probably barely drink water.
Yeah, that's the thing though. You shouldn't go into a movie and think, like, I can't eat this or I can't drink this because I'll have to go to the toilet. They always say cinema should be an enjoyable experience, but they don't really say that it can be enjoyable. The thing is, you can't drink that much because you will go to the toilet and you might miss something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've definitely said for 2.5 hours. I mean, if you could just take, say, any Marvel movie that's 2.5 hours, say Captain America and Winter Soldier, that would actually be a case of. I think the intermission would have to be done before the big sort of like before the big Hydra reveal and after the fact that all of Shield turns on Steve. So probably, I'm just trying to think because it's been a while since I have seen it, so I'm just going off memory here. No, that's Civil War. Just do you know what, chaps? I'm actually struggling.
I don't think in any of the Marvel movies, I mean, except for maybe Endgame, would I justify an intermission? Because Endgame was like 3 hours. I can see an intermission happening for that, but Captain America Winter Soldier, not really. If you're doing a double feature, then yeah, maybe like a 10 or 15-minute break between movies. But not once during the Winter Soldier did I think, wow, I really wish there was a break, you know?
Yeah. All right, we'll go with Endgame then, since you mentioned Endgame. I would actually do the intermission in the plan, in the planning process of, right, how do we get to all these venues how do we get to all these places in time with everything that we've got? So I would say a good intermission part would be sort of like the beginning part of the planning process that they have, just for an idea. I would say that would be a good idea. If you had anything after that, then obviously when they start going back in time, that's when the tension starts and all the fun begins. So if you had it during then, you would actually absolutely ruin it.
I think the perfect part would be as soon as they go back in time. They go back in time, cut to black, 10-minute intermission.
And continuality as well.
Exactly. Because then you're wondering, holy crap, what's about to happen?
We're time delayed. You've got 10 minutes before time resets itself and goes back to normal.
Exactly. Like it's taking them 10 minutes to go back in time, so go pee.
Oh, by the way, we should. If that actually did happen, imagine if we copyrighted that?
Oh, we'd be gold.
We would. We'd be like Scrooge McDuck swimming through his money all day long.
Absolutely.
I think that's about it, chaps. Is there anything else we can contribute to that? I'm not sure there is. I'm sure there is, but I just think until it actually becomes like a major issue where studios will go, yes, we're going to start having intermission, then it might be a case of we can revisit this in the future. But I think, as far as right now goes, I think we're good. I can't think of anything else.
I can't either.
I mean, I know at one point I saw a lot of posts about some cinemas actually having the movies playing in the bathrooms because that's the main reason why people leave during mid-screening. But
that's so stupid.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting concept, thinking, let's just put it on in the toilets.
That's so dumb.
In that case, I will take an hour and a half long dump while I'm listening to a movie and let my imagination do the rest.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the screens you can look at as well in the toilets, but it's
that's because you're basically killing your moneymaker if you do that. It's like, why would you want to pay £10? 5, 10, 15, 20 quid, however much you spend on a movie when you can just go, oh yeah, I'm just going to sit in the toilet for an hour and a half and listen to it and watch it on a screen.
Yeah, I think most cinemas don't allow you into the toilets though, unless you've actually got tickets.
To be honest with you, I know we're on the Odeon nearest us, Sam. They do actually let you go to the toilet. Not so much if you're a customer, but if you're getting ready to go in, or if you're a customer at Costa, they let you go in. But if you're just going in for if you're going in just to go to the toilet and go back out again, I don't really think they allow that, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I don't know who's come up with that, but I know I have seen that somewhere and thought that's probably the most ridiculous thing going, like, cinema-wise.
Someone was probably drunk when they come up with that idea.
I'd love to meet the man who, thought it was a smart idea.
Future topic. I would actually like to meet the man who actually did a poll on the most stressful video games and thought Mario Kart 8 was the most stressful game that there is.
Wow. I'd put Mario Party up there, honestly.
I want to say, has whoever done this poll not thought of Alien Isolation?
Probably not.
Or Elden Ring, or Dark Souls, or Call of Duty, or hell, even F1. Even F1 20, even F1 games are quite stressful. Particularly when your machinery is not doing the job and you're just like stressing out because you want it to go faster, but you know it can't. But yeah, future topic, we will actually go over what games we think are the most stressful. Spoiler alert, I don't think Mario Kart 8 is one of them. Saying that, I don't think any Mario Kart is stressful.
No. Mario Party I'm putting up there, but not Mario Kart.
I don't know if you two have played the original Mario Kart on the SNES, but at the I think it's Mushroom Track 2, there's kind of like, it goes in like a figure of 8 where you are basically launched when you basically drive onto 2 mushrooms and it takes you over the road. I always remember that being quite funny, particularly when you launched the mushroom before you went on the 2, and then you just like disappeared off the screen. It was kind of like, yeah, this is actually quite fun. This isn't stressful.
True.
I will say one thing: there are tracks on Mario Kart that are quite stressful because you have to be precise, but I can't see anything. I can't see a Mario Kart track being the most stressful thing that you ever think about.
No.
So it's a fun game with player mates, isn't it? It's not competitive in any way.
Yeah, give us a couple of weeks, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see if there is actually a game more stressful than Mario Kart 8. Although I do still say Alien Isolation is the most stressful game I've played, and I've played a lot. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that's us done for another week. Not quite sure if it's going to be a movie special or gaming special. I know I do have a lot of news regarding gaming that we need to cover. So it might very well be a gaming special next week. So with that being said, as far as socials go, you can find me on the Directed by Dean podcast on Instagram and Directed by Dean podcast on YouTube. I will be honest, I haven't uploaded a F1 video in a while, but by the time this goes up, there should be about 2 or 3 should be 2 or 3 going up. So hope to see everyone on YouTube, and thank you to everyone who has watched them or subscribed to any of my channels.
Nice, and you can find me on Instagram at Joe J. Barra. Feel free to follow me on my journey, and reach out. Give me a DM. I'd love to get to know you all.
And if you're trying to find me, it is at Masked Murdoch. That'll be on Instagram, TikTok. If I'm on the platform, that's what my at will be.
Oh, speaking of which, Samwise, what movies have you got coming up to review on Instagram this week?
Well, today, the 30th of the 10th, I will be rating the new Five Nights at Freddy's film that came out.
Ooh, okay, nice.
Have you seen it already?
I have seen it, yeah.
Oh, now the question I have, Joe, is will he grill it more than the critics grilled it? Because the critics didn't really much like it when they got a screen test of it.
Ooh,
I'm expecting it's either going to go one of 2 ways. It's going to be really good, or he's going to tear it apart. But considering how well it's done with audiences, I think he'll be quite respectful with it.
I think he's going to tear it apart. We'll see.
So next week, well, in fact, we'll say by the time this is released, we will find out, and we'll find out who's got egg on the face and whose ego is bigger than the others. As always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. You can always follow us, like us, and subscribe. We will be doing. I tell you something, chaps. I know I did plan about YouTube, but we never really discussed it. Do you think we should do YouTube before the end of the year?
Yeah, definitely. Why not?
I don't see. I actually have wanted to do it for ages, but I think we could probably start doing it. If anybody does want to start doing YouTube videos of our podcast, by all means, hit one of us up, and we'll see what there is. Also, if there is any topics that you would like us to cover, by all means, get in touch with any of us, and we will see what we can do. So, with that being said, from the actor, from the critic, and the interviewer, we bid you goodbye.